This is my 1992 Caddy and it's a 1.6 petrol. In this video I'm just going to show everything that I've done to it so far and just sort of give like a rough talk through of what needs done. The Caddy, it was just sort of like a half unfinished project. The front end was cut off it, there wasn't an engine in it, and the interior was all stripped out and back there in the back of it. So the first thing we done to it was a power washed all in onto the engine bay, but I'll show it, but I just need to get this here cleared up. First thing that really got done to it was we just give the whole car a power wash the inside off it, power washed the outside, power washed all the engine bay, because it was all empty, there's nothing in it, just to try and give a good place to start off, because it's a lot easier to start whenever it's clean. It had no wings on it. As I said, there was no front end. It was cut off on the chassis legs. The car, before we had bought it, was in like a front end collision, and the two chassis legs were bent in the ways, so they both need straightened out. All cleaned up, started into trying to get the front panel to line up. These chassis legs, I think it was this here side here was the worst side, and it was sort of pulled in this way a bit too much, and this side was it was going this way as well, so it was just sort of like the whole front of the car was pulled to the side. But the reason the guy we bought it off was selling it was because the front end wouldn't line up on it. But my dad thought he could fix it because he's quite good at bodywork, so he done pretty much all the work to the front end of this to get it all to line up nicely, and it looks really well. Like, it's pretty much perfect. He was doing that there. I started into cleaning up and painting pretty much every wee tiny bit of the engine bay, either cleaning or painting, or if it was bare metal, like if it was something that was bare metal, I would have polished it down with Scotch-Brite and just got everything looking as good as you could. So pretty much everything in this engine bay is all painted to look pretty much brand new. So there's a lot of alternator painted, cam wheels all painted, gearbox painted. Just, I didn't want it to look too flashy or far out, I just wanted it to look sort of standard. And then the carb, it didn't get painted or anything, it just got a good wire brush and soaking thinners, and it runs well on that there. It's a Pureberg 36mm choke, I think, but it runs quite well on it. So yeah, like the front of it, I'll put in a couple of pictures, but there was absolutely no front end on it. After the front end was all welded on, we started, well actually before that, I dropped the suspension out of it and repainted everything, tidied everything up, made sure everything seemed okay. It all seemed grand, so cleaned it all up, painted it. And these are the standard, I think they're 256mm brakes, but I wanted to keep with them because the wheels I want to put on it are 13-inch. So you have to keep the small brakes whenever you have 13-inch wheels on them. The colour that I wanted to go with it originally was this here colour, which is called Sting Grey, which is a colour that like Jeep, as in like the Jeep Wrangler, uses for their like sort of dark, or not dark, sort of greeny or grey colour. But what I quite liked about it was in some lights there's like a green tinge to it, which made it look different to me. But in the end, I think for the engine, I'm going to keep the engine bay this grey, but I'm going to go back to the original blue on the outside for the bodywork of it. There's that many other ones that are this sort of grey colour that I feel like it just would blend in with them, and I feel like it would look a lot nicer in the blue. On to the interior of it, the floor was all covered in like waxy sort of sealant sound deadening, so all that there needed stripped off for it to be painted. It wasn't sort of even, and I would rather put my own layer on that wasn't going to be It was done. Well, it was because it needed painted and a mix off. There was also rust below it, so we just wanted to get everything out of it, so that we knew everything that could be done to stop the car from rusting again had been done. So the whole interior was empty. No steering column in it. No wiring loom. Getting the wiring loom in and getting the car wired up was actually easy enough, because the guy who we had bought the car from, luckily every bit of the wiring loom he took off, he put a tag on it to say what it was, so that made life a lot more easy whenever it came to wiring the car back up. And I went for this here grey colour on the inside, but it is going to get resprayed before while the outside of the car is getting resprayed, because I'm just not as happy with that colour as I used to be, and I would rather keep it to this original sea blue colour. And you can see sort of here the paint's flaking off it, and that's actually the car's been resprayed once before, because if you go below this here primer, the original colour's there, so it's got a really heavy coat of paint on it, which isn't good. So whenever it's getting painted, everything's going to be sanded down to bare metal, the whole car. Just do a section at a time and keep it good. And it's got the Mark 1 style clocks on it, which do need replaced, because the speedo needle is broke off, and I'm not sure what I would want to do yet, but I sometimes think I would like a rev counter instead of the clock, but it is still pretty cool having a clock on your dash rather than a rev counter. The same time of the top half, like the engine bay and stuff getting painted, I did paint the underside of it with what is actually hay shed paint, but it was quite a nice match to the top side colour and provided pretty good protection, as well as it was able to be painted onto bare metal, which should hopefully again stop the car from rusting and keep it good for another 20 years. Onto the back of it. So at the minute it's a bit of a state. It's got just about every tool on it, but whenever I started working it, I just brought the car outside, jacked it up, and power washed all the underneath off it to try and get as much dirt as I could off it, anything loose, and then brought it in and started sort of trying to decide what needed done. So there was a hole around here, which I think is actually quite a common place to have a rust hole in caddies for whatever reason, as well as this back, the very end of it. This here part of the bed was extremely rotten and really dented, so that there obviously needed replaced, as well as these here. There's like sort of also runners that these here sort of steps up that were here, but pretty much every single one of them was dented and rotted at either end, so so far that you couldn't fix them really. They were never going to be straight or right. At first I ordered one section of this here bed panel, which was about £100 for one, so I thought I could get enough patches out of one to replace all of the rusty parts of the bed. So I think, because here there was about half a foot of panel that needed gone, so that would have been about half a foot off it. There was also a really long rusty part here that needed to be gone, and the same over there, as well as just sort of other holes dotted around it. It seemed like it was probably a farm truck or something at some stage. There was obviously a big long patch put here that I've since ground off, which was probably the biggest. All the way to up here, even though the mill is pretty straight from here down to there, there was a patch for, I don't even know what, it was just a panel that was welded over the top of it. There was also one that went around this corner here. Really, that was the only hole around this whole thing, and it went from over there all the way down around here just to cover that. And it probably wasn't as bad whenever it was covered up. has probably just rotted more from the metal, and like the metal holding the moisture between them. Same on this side. There's a patch that went from here all the way around here to here for no particular reason. And there was a really large patch here, about a foot long, from up here all the way down here, which is just a large flat patch that wasn't exactly covering anything. It was just welded in for the sake of it by the seams of it. The more I looked at it and thought about it, the more it seemed like I was just going to have to replace the whole bed, which is what I ended up doing. After I decided that, I got all of the old panels off the top, drilled out all the spot welds, cleaned it all up, took all the old sealer off, repainted it, done it with red oxide paint and then that hay shade paint. There's a few holes up at this end which needed filled up, which you can sort of see where they are from the inside because you can see the bare metal. There was a bit there where you can see the smoke. There was a bit there where that's ground down, and another one a wee bit further on. But they all got replaced, so that was another reason why it is going to need repainted in here, especially where that middle one is. So I had all these here top pieces. I have all the holes drilled. I lined these here up, drilled holes and everything for a spot weld, pinned them together, and now it's in a state where the bed can be welded in, but it's one of them things I would rather do with the door open and have as much light as possible, just to get that done. So that's why I've been recently working at the wheel arches and getting them finished up. Still needs done to the car. Well, obviously the bed all needs spot welded in, just to have it permanently fastened down. The rear suspension is on leaf springs, is going to need dropped out, and I'll get it all painted and put back in. And after that's done, then whenever the bed's welded in, this here I'll need cut off flush with this, but I'm just waiting until the bed's in because you don't know what's going to happen whenever you weld it. I might end up making a mistake here and have to move this here all up. Just nice to have a bit of extra room to move around if you really need to in case something does go wrong. So that there, but this here, look, hopefully will just get cut off from here to over here. All these here ends will sort of get cut and knocked down and shaped into something. Oh, never mind. I thought there was something there I should compare it to, but have it looking what it did factory. Here, these here are another patch that I had made. That there was pretty much rotten from the bottom all the way up to here. So I made quite what I think is quite a nice job of this here. Obviously just needs filled in and probably ground down again before the final paint, but I just have this oxide paint over it to make sure it doesn't rust again for while it's sitting here. Oh yeah, so back to what needs done. The bed all needs finished up, and then obviously on to the full respray of the outside of it. As I said earlier, the paint of it is so flaky, so like it's gonna need taken down to bare metal just because the car is so full of filler and has such thick paint on it that if you painted it like this, even if you brought it down to that for that last coat of primer from its last respray, it just wouldn't be right. So the whole car needs brought down to bare metal for a respray, which obviously is a lot of work, but it's work that I want to do to the car. After that, it's just I have a set of ATS classic wheels for it, which need refurbed, and the interior obviously needs to go in. The doors are pretty much ready to go into the car, and the interior is all here. I've got GTI seats for it, which will look really good on it. But no, overall that is everything that has been done to the Caddy and needs done to the Caddy. And even though it didn't take that long to talk about, it's something that I've been working on for the last couple of years, and it's taken a lot of time. But it does feel like I'm getting somewhere with it, and I can't wait to actually be able to use it.